Three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami.
Welcome. Welcome to Reno Buddhist Center. To all of you here present, it's so lovely to see all of your faces. And to those at home tuning in, we welcome all of you. We begin with our Shoshinge chant and incense offering. For those of you who are new to the temple today, you'll find our Shoshinge book in the seat back pocket in front of you. And you open it and chant in vertical columns from right to left down. So if you go the way we read English, you're going to get lost instantly. So vertical columns. And if that's too hard, don't worry. It does take practice to learn how to chant our Shoshinge. Just sit and listen and let the good vibrations flow through you. That is the most important part. Chanting is a core practice of our tradition. We think of it as an active form of meditation and cultivating very positive, compassionate energy. It was written by our founder, Shinran Shonin, the monk in the large picture at the top, more than 800 years ago. And in the Shoshinge, he compresses his experiences and insights into one pleasantly long poem that we very much enjoy chanting. He is certainly with us today, and we keep him with us through this chant. In it, we realize the principles that guide our lives. Shinran wants us to know that life is more than a simple journey from cradle to grave. We are part of a long, unbroken thread of life that extends deep, deep into the past, and we are responsible for extending that thread into the future. We will also offer incense right here at our Oshoko altar. Everyone is encouraged to offer incense, even at your altar at home. Incense offering is a cleansing of the mind and body before receiving the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. Burning incense symbolizes transcending selfishness to become one with all. We also have two other altars in our hondo. To the south is our Kannon altar for prayers of compassion. So if you need more compassion, or someone has recently transitioned, or you just want to extend compassion to the world, you may go to that altar and light a candle. And in the north is our Medicine Buddha altar for more healing energy, healing from ignorance, wrong views, physical, mental, emotional ailments, for yourself or others can be extended there through offering incense. And here on our high altar is a Mida Buddha, the Buddha offering boundless wisdom and compassion. And we offer incense and gratitude to that boundless wisdom and compassion that supports us and surrounds us 24/7, whether we realize it or not. It's there. You're never alone. So we offer that in gratitude. So thank you so much. And we will begin with chanting.
See his eyes?
Shoshinge. Kimyo muryo junyorai. Namu fukashigi ko hozo bosa iniji. Zai seiji zai obusho. Token shobu jodoin. Kokudo ninden shizen maku. Konju mujo shushogan. Shoho keu daiguze. Goko shi yui shi shoju. Juse myosho monji po. Uho muryo muhen ko. Muge mutai koen no. Shoujo kangi chi eko. Fudan nanshi mushoko. Chonichi ga ko shojin se. Isai gunjo mukosho. Hongam yogo shoujo go. Shishin shingyo ganmi in. Joto gakusho dai nehan. Hishi mendo ganjoju. Nyorai shoi koshu se. Yui se mida hongon kai. Gojoku wakuji gunjo kai. Oshin yorai ryojitun gon. Noho ichinen kiai shin. Fudan bon no tokune han. Bonsho gyaku hosai e nyu. Nyoshu shinyu tai chimi. Seishu shinko joshogo. Ino sui ha mumyoan. Tonnai shinzo shi unmu. Jofu shinji shinjin ten. Inyo ni kofu unmu. Unmu shige myomuan. Gyakushin kenkyo daikyo ki. Soku o chose go akushu. Isai zen makubon bunin. Monshin yorai guzegan. Butengon kodai shogesha. Zenim yo fundarike. Mida buhon gannen bu. Jaken kyo manakushujo. Shingyo juji jinni nanshu shinan mukashi. Indo saiten shironge. Shukajichi ikki shikoso. Kendai shoko se shoi. Myonyorai honze oki. Shaka nyorai yoga sen. Ishu gomyo nanten jiku. Ruju daiji shuto se. Shitno zai ha umuken. Senze daijo mujo ho. Shokangi ji showan raku. Kenji nangyo roku roku. Shingyo igyo shidoraku. Okunen mida buhongan. Jinen sokuji ryu hitenjo. Yui no jo shonyorai go. Hoho dai hi guze on. Tenjin bosa zoron se. Kimyo muge konyorai. 永州ただ謙信寺高専王朝大聖願こ有本願力栄光移動群上昇維新非入空独大崩壊筆脈入大永州州特使連芸造成会即昇進用法昇進有望の人間人図入賞自音自王芸自動乱両天使上皇乱症菩薩来三蔵ルシ十条教本書専業気楽法天神菩薩論中芸報道因果見世願方言栄光有他力少女死因唯新人惑前本部新人法承知承知即涅槃非死無量光明道小有修上回復系同社継承道難所有名浄土活入万全自力変言宗円満特語感染症三風三神慶音言増魔法明道非因一生増悪地偶税思安妖怪称名化全道独名部所意公愛上三陽逆惑公明明語見因縁介入本願大智慧行者小樹金剛心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即小法小四上楽原神公開一大教変気安養官二祭先祖出身反戦人法家二道小弁流極十悪人唯小部火薬剤非正集中煩悩証言追不見大非無見上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具惑性現来生じ臨伝芸慶地義上位小子即入弱上無意楽一心地に納入仏教大事修士と上妻無変極辱悪同族自主具道心唯過信地構想性ナムアミダアムナムアミダアムナムアミダアムナムアミダブナアムアミダアムナムミダジョブのこの方は今に自己 riyen ki wa mona aku se no mo myo wo tera sunari. Eko. Kannishi kudoku Byoudo Seisai Dohon Bodai Shin Ojo wa an rako. Namandabu 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 Namandabu.
Before we invite the kids downstairs for Dharma School, we would like to make an announcement. We are excited to share with you all that Will and I are expecting a baby boy in August. And we are so excited to share this joy and time with all of you. And now we will invite the children down to Dharma School. Let's sing them out with Let the Buddha Walk With You.
And there will be cupcakes after service.
I want 2. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. I was going for a whole nother verse, but okay. And now we're reading.
Good morning. This is from the Lanapala Sutra. Once the Buddha was asked, why Ananda, why karma by Ananda, why karma affects different people differently depending on their character. Buddha responded that those who say, when a person makes karma in a skillful way, the fruit of that karma will help them experience life skillfully. They live the spiritual life, and they will see the opportunity for living in abiding joy. But when a person makes an action unskillfully, the fruit of that action will lead them to more unskillful action. And then the Buddha offered the parable of the salt crystal. There is the case where a small, unskillful action done by a person takes them to hell. There is the case where a similar, unskillful action done by another person is experienced in the here and now, and for the most part barely appears for a moment. Now, what sort of person is taken to hell by a small, unskillful deed? When a person is undeveloped in contemplating the body, undeveloped in virtue, undeveloped in mind cultivation, undeveloped in discernment, restricted, small-hearted, dwelling with suffering. A small, unskillful deed done by this sort of a person takes them to hell. Now, when that sort of person experiences the effect of a small, unskillful deed briefly in the here and now, and for the most part is barely affected, when the person is developed in contemplation of the body, developed in virtue, developed in mind cultivation, developed in discernment, unrestricted, large-hearted, dwelling with the immeasurable, a small, unskillful deed done by this sort of a person is only experienced in the here and now. It is like this. Suppose that a man were to drop a salt crystal into a small cup of water. What do you think? Would the water in the cup become salty because of the salt crystal and unfit to drink? Yes, said Ananda. Why is that? There being only a small amount of water in the cup, it would become salty because of the salt crystal and unfit to drink, answered Ananda. Now suppose that a man were to drop a salt crystal into the river Ganges. What do you think? Would the water in the river Ganges become salty because of the salt crystal and unfit to drink? No, said Ananda. Why is that? There being a great mass of water in the river Ganges, it would not become salty because of the salt crystal, answered Ananda. In the same way, a small, unskillful action done by a person with very little establishment in virtue takes him to hell. And where the very same sort of small action done by the other person, established and habituated in virtue, is experienced in the here and now, and for the most part barely appears for a moment. Ananda, for anyone who says, when a person makes karma in a skillful way, the fruit of that karma is experienced skillfully. They live the spiritual life, and they will be offered the opportunity for living in abiding joy. And Ananda understood. We will now have a few minutes of meditation accompanied by music.
I made it on top of the platform. That's always trepidatious, but okay. I do have my peppermint with me because the foreign proteins exuded by the beautiful flowers do affect me. So if it seems I'm hitting the sauce a little hard today, that's the reason. So let me advance my prompting device. Probably shouldn't start at the end. It wouldn't be good. It might be different, but less good. I can welcome you all without prompt. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, this is really long. Oh, sorry. It just seems like 2 weeks passes by so quickly since last we were together. Just so much happens. There are tragedies and triumphs and spring in full flower. I want to thank the many of you who have offered condolences on the passing onward of my dear mother, Elizabeth Fisher. Just this Monday, she passed onward. We're navigating the turbulence and experience of that as best we can. So, she was a firm believer in the proximity of the Pure Land of Amida Buddha. We will gather as a family at a cremation service on Tuesday, and then we'll have a memorial service here on the 21st. So if you knew her, if you'd like to come to that, there will be an announcement later. Welcome again to visitors and new friends. It is good to come together and consider the Dharma. It's going to take a little more peppermint than that. Today, I will be making a case for karma. The phrase make a case sounds pretty formal. Reverend Shelley raised an eyebrow when I said that could be the title of the Dharma talk. I think she, if karma is an immutable law, she thought, why do we need to make a case for it? We don't make a case for the sun coming up in the morning. We don't make a case for gravity. We just experience it, right? We just know they're there. Karma is actually like that. My answer to her was that many people have not settled into accepting this truth. The reality of cause and effect in the unfolding of our spiritual life that we call karma. For those folks, some explanation may be helpful. So, what is this law of karma we speak of? Karma means action. That's what the word means in our ancient language of Sanskrit. It comes from the same root word as the English word create. The root is called kur, and it means to order or to do something. So, if we create an artwork, we're not making it out of nothing. We're taking some other materials and putting them together and making a beautiful arrangement of flowers, for instance. Some beautiful spring flowers there on the altar. That's a quince. The pink, is that pink or is it orange? It's red. Okay, well, we can have a whole other talk about how perceptions differ, but that's a different talk. So, karma means action. Intentional action of body, speech, and mind. When we take action and make things a certain way, that is karma. The fruit of those actions are their effects on our life. So, the Buddha taught on karma often. And understanding karma is very important to spiritual growth. Karma is, like everything, in constant flux and change, a flowing together of causes and conditions. Some of the causes flow from objective conditions, some flow from our personal karma, and some from the Buddha's karma. To some extent, we create our experience of the present by choices that we make. The Buddha's teaching on karma empowers us to become the directors of the unfolding of our spiritual life by our actions in each moment. On the interweb, there are many references to karma, memes and that sort of thing. Apparently, the people at Reddit have completely co-opted the word karma, and it actually means your points on the Reddit website literally half the memes I saw about karma were about Reddit. So that is just, this monstrous has consumed a very meaningful word. So I won't bag on Reddit, or our friends at YouTube will probably take this video down. Oops. In those memes and such, usually a bad person gets a bad result in the end. That's the common depiction there. I did run across one that makes almost no sense to me at all, and I keep thinking about it, and I cannot have it make any sense. This one. I think my karma just ran over your dogma. Because car is a vehicle, and karma sounds like a car, and cars run over dogs, which is sad. But anyway, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. I looked at lots of these for my Dharma talk, thinking I would find one with particular insight, and I could go with that, but it turns out if you retweet something on Reddit, you get more karma points. That's all I learned from that entire 45 minutes of doom scrolling through. So I stopped. There seems to be a broad and general misunderstanding of what we mean by karma. Some people like that idea of a cosmic justice mechanism. It seems to be just too complicated to me. I've got a complication meter in my mind, and when someone says, "Oh, this is the way the world works," like the pre-Copernicans explanation of how come it seemed like the planets moved in funny ways, because sometimes they go forward and sometimes they go back if you look up in the sky. And they had drawn out all these complicated, weird patterns of how all the planets revolved around the Earth. And they proved it by drawing all these pictures. They were completely wrong. It was much too complicated. We are actually going around the sun, and it's a nice little ellipse, and there you go, right? So, when things are too complicated, we double check. So the way this complicated system seems to work, according to all the memes, is you make an action, and later, or sooner, the universe alters your fate to either reward you or to punish you for that action. This would mean there is a universal definition of good and bad, that there is a judge that decides, and there is some medium or magic ether through which the karma waves or karma particles, I'm not sure, are measured, logged, and meted out. A cosmic karma scorecard, perhaps, for each one of us in a cosmic filing cabinet somewhere. See how that's just too complicated for me? It is. And whenever you have a theory that requires an invisible magic ether to make it work, it is not a good sign. You should go back to your physics lab and keep looking at the universe. Just let it go at that point. You're kind of practicing medieval science at that point, and those two words don't really go well together. So let's just toss that out. Oops, I tossed it in the direction of Amida Buddha. I'll toss it out. The Buddha's descriptions and experiences of karma are different from these. Not a man-made thing, not judged, not counted, not logged, not ethereal. That's what ethereal is, the right word for that. Ethereal, okay. Instead, it is a fundamental law of the universe. Karma is embedded in consciousness itself. I will explain. let's look at who experiences karma. It's a quiz question. Who experiences karma? You do. Right. Okay. That means each of us does an action and experiences the fruits of that action. At this point, someone usually says, wait. How can that be? Because the Buddha said there is no self-contained self, no architect or no house builder of our experience. Wouldn't that mean there is no owner of karma? Wow, that is a really good question. But if we look at this concept of you, it's a pretty difficult one. It is very important. The Buddha taught the insight of anatta, which means non-self. His point is, there is no separate and unchanging self or soul inside us. Instead, what we experience as I and me is the flowing together of many causes and conditions. Some of the causes flow from objective conditions around us, some from our personal karma, those decisions we make and actions we take, and some from the Buddha's karma. But none of them belong to us. An illustration might be, if we took a look back in time, look at a younger you. Imagine this person, the younger you. From your own perspective, it is certainly you, right? And yet, it's riding that little bicycle, it has that little favorite object. If you go back far enough, you probably have very little in common with this person you were. Almost nothing in common. As a child, you just had very different perceptions and thoughts about the world around you. This is anatta, non-self, experienced. Who you were then and who you are now are different. For now, let's just accept the idea that we are no longer the person we were and will be a different person in the future. Kind of makes sense. Changing and becoming is just our nature. The future you is the owner of the fruits of past you's actions. Like dominoes falling. The first domino just falls, and then eventually the last domino falls. But what is the relationship, the ownership of the falling between the first one and the last one? It's ambiguous at best, or non-existent. It's also a word for that. Like a candle flame, it burns, and then after a while it continues burning, but it's not the same stuff burning, is it? No, it's not the same stuff burning. So it's kind of just that ongoing reaction process. We should probably get back to karma. Okay. There is a subtle effect on who we become exerted by each of our intentional acts of body, speech, and mind. Like when we overuse a word. Have you ever had a coworker that overused a word? At first, they probably thought it sounded good. Quite frankly, I think such and such. But then over time, you don't even call him Larry anymore. He's just the quite frankly guy. So, things become habitual. There's habit energy or inertia. That's where this... so these actions, by their effect, plant a seed of this habit energy, and that bears fruit someday in who we become. This is called personal karma. It is the part of life we have a measure of control over. If we really understand it, we can make skillful actions leading to positive results. Like in the sutra, one of the people described in the sutra was quite skillful with their actions. We learned from Dr. Matsunaga, our founder and teacher, that in life there are three categories of causes contribute to things occurring: objective conditions, personal karma, and the Buddha's karma. If someone experiences a painful circumstance, a car crash on an icy road, let's say, objective conditions point to a myriad of circumstances that contributed to the accident. And I want to make this clear. We do not think that most events are caused by your personal karma, which is to say, it's not your fault. The victim's personal karmic actions did not cause the slip and slide. Your habit energy does not cause the road to be icy that day, in that way, in that place. It does not cause the tire to be worn in just such a way that it loses contact or connection with the road. By definition, personal karma refers to how each of us responds to a situation on a spiritual level. The personal karma aspect in the example is how we respond to the accident emotionally, and the spiritual insights we gain through that experience. Personal karma are actions in the spiritual part of our lives. It is empowering to realize that we can affect the course of our spiritual life. It's really great. That is the Buddha's great insight. And that is clearly different from the magic ether justice system thingy that are wrongly called karma on the interweb. So, always remember, karma is applied primarily to ourself, in self-reflection. It is not a way to judge others, especially to explain why some people find themselves in unfortunate conditions. In Buddhism, karma has a very special meaning, cause and effect in spiritual growth. A skillful cause, that karma, that action, leads to a positive result. An unskillful action leads to negative effects. I try to associate this skillful and unskillful rather than good and bad like on Reddit. When we reflect on our actions, our karma, we are considering causality in our lives. Karma is a fundamental part of the Buddha's teaching because our actions are causes of our mind state. Ultimately, our actions determine if we suffer or if we are joyful. Buddhism is really a study in these types of causes. How is that? The Buddha realized that life is fundamentally joyful, but that most sentient beings do not experience it in that way. He looked at the causes of joy in life and the causes of suffering. The Buddha's great quest and the 48 vows are focused on creating a cause for abiding joy in the lives of all sentient beings. That's what the Buddhas are all about. We realize that everything is the result of an interlinked web of causes and effects. This leads us to realize all things, and really all beings, are events, not things. They're not objects. We are all interdependently co-arising through time and space. Separateness feelings are really a misunderstanding, floating in a sea of interconnections. The self is really a misunderstanding, floating in a sea, this wonderful sea of interconnection. So, wandering back to how karma works. The Buddha taught that it works on the habit of our mind, our tendencies. If we habituate positive actions, they become common in our experience. If we habituate unfortunate actions, we get used to them and they dominate our lives. Karma operates through its effect on our consciousness. Its effect on the ongoing flowing stream of the you call you. Cultivating skillful actions of body, speech, and mind results in experiencing those thoughts more often. We think and say skillful things more often. We act in spiritually valuable and skillful ways more often. We just need to get in the habit. That is the point of the Salt Crystal Sutra. If we are established in skillful actions, a small, trivial, unskillful action will only have a small effect. If we have very little skillful habit energy, then an unskillful action, even a small one, will have a big negative effect. For example, we take the first one of the Buddha's list of skillful actions, giving, dana. This is the first practice in Buddhism, really. Generosity, selfless giving. The action of giving. We give to the temple, for instance, to support the three treasures of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Most of the time, people make monetary offerings in support of these teachings. There's little boxes on the wall and a Venmo account and all the different ways. Sometimes people just set up a thing that regularly makes a donation to the temple. It's all very wonderful, helpful, and useful. And sometimes people give their time or their special skills to maintain and create this safe place for the Dharma that we call the temple. But we give without an expectation of return. I do expect you to return, but okay, I understand. Dana is selfless giving, a wholesome and skillful action. Positive actions may have positive or negative results. Have you ever done that? Have you offered the sandwich to the beggar and had him slap it on the ground and yell at you for not giving him money for beer? That happens sometimes. So it seemed like I was doing a good thing, but then it turned out kind of bad. Well, that's really more about objective conditions. Those positive actions always have a beneficial effect on our consciousness and our habit energy that leads to who we become next, whether the sandwich falls on the ground or the person eats the sandwich, both ways. A positive effect brings us closer to seeing clearly our interconnectedness, closer to enlightenment. We experience life with greater joy, with serenity, with gratitude, and compassion for all beings. I do have one other element to mention. We had three there. Remember, the third category, Dr. Matsunaga would talk about objective conditions, personal karma, and the Buddha's karma. Amida Buddha is infinite compassion and infinite wisdom in the universe. Amida Buddha made 48 vows to reach out to all of us simple folk who are unlikely to reach Buddhahood on our own. He dedicated the positive effect on consciousness of his many kalpas of strenuous practice to that end. This is the great store of Buddhist karma in the universe, the Dharmakara. It is transformational energy accessible across the vast sea of interconnectedness. Skillful karma, energy that can be shared. This effect is very important in Mahayana Buddhism, and particularly in our Pure Land Shin Buddhism. Shinran Shonin observed that as a foolish, ego-centered being, Bombunin we say, he, or I can say we, are seldom able to effectively practice skillful personal karma. There's always weird calculations woven into it. When I gave the person that knocked the sandwich on the ground and yelled at me for not giving money for beer, I was really happy with myself because I'm giving you a sandwich. I'm a good person. And so that's part of the calculation. I didn't really do it in a selfless way. It's complex. There's good and complicated aspects here. We really just bumble along at best, and that's the way we are. Like the first individual in the Lonapala Sutra that Chris read for us. For an unskillful person, doing a small unskillful act can have a large effect. We're traveling on thin ice already. Without tremendous personal strength and a perfect spiritual environment to live in, even knowing what is just right action is often impossible for regular people preoccupied with their regular lives. This insight into spiritual limitations arose in Shinran after he had spent 20 years of significant practice and struggle in a monastery as a Buddhist priest, from when he was 9 to when he was 29. In desperation, he left the monastery seeking guidance from the Bodhisattva Kannon, over here. In a dream, she directed Shinran to a new teacher, Honen Shonin, who helped him to awaken the Buddha's karma, the karmic power of the great vow of Amida Buddha, vast and great other power. A central idea in Shin Buddhism is to ease off on the I, me, my power and deeply feel or hear or sense that there is something bigger out there, other power, supporting us, holding us. In the larger sutra, Shakyamuni taught us that long, long ago, Amida Buddha vowed to aid all beings engaged in spiritual struggle. The scroll on the wall, there's two there. There's one where Dharmakara Bodhisattva has his nenju in his hand, and he's enumerating his different vows to his teacher. That's the moment of those great vows being made. Amida Buddha vowed to aid all beings engaged in spiritual struggle. It speaks to the existence of spiritual help beyond the limited self, available to us if our minds are opened to the karmic power of the Buddha. We are freed from the grip of Mara when we turn to other power. Other power is a word for Amida's compassionate actions, his karma in the sea of consciousness. Deep trust allows Amida's skillful habit energy to affect us, to transform us. Unskillful karma can be transformed into skillful karma by the other power of wisdom and compassion. When I completely trust in Amida Buddha, when I completely trust in the wise, compassionate universe around me. Quoting Shinran, through the benefit bestowed by unhindered light, one realizes the shinjin of vast transcendent virtue. Unfailingly, the ice of blind passions melts and immediately becomes the water of enlightenment. Obstructing evils have become the substance of virtues. It is like ice and water. The more ice, the more water. The more hindrance, the more virtue. Shinran is showing us that we are okay, just as we are, warts and all. Regrets and sorrows and bad judgments, they're all transformed when we give up our separate ego mind and simply trust, Tadatomi, in the universe. Deep and quiet trust, expanding in all directions. So that is karma. As Bombunin, we bumble along. We try our best to act in good conscience and kindness. Most of the time, we fail. When we do, we are redeemed by taking refuge in the greater goodness of Amida Buddha. Karma really applies to ourself in positive reflection and meditation. It is not like fate, predestination, or retribution. Karma means action of body, speech, and mind. Karma really has much more to do with the present and the future than the past. Buddha's karma is available to those who come to realize the futility of perfecting our goofy selves. The Buddha's karma is none other than Amida's compassion. Vow power, it's sometimes called. Let us channel that vow power through ourselves and give it out in a wish for all beings. Please make gasho if you're comfortable doing that. And repeat after me. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Thank you. At this point, we usually share our Reno Buddhist Center theme song, as selected by Reverend Alicia. It is from the musical How the West Was Won. Originally, we would listen to a cassette tape, and I'll explain what those are to you later. He's a DJ. He has cassette tapes, but anyway, he loves music. He even has a turntable, which is kind of impressive. Where am I? Oh, the idea of the Pure Land is expressed in this song, but it's on page 49 of the service book. If you would stand, we will sing it together. One, two, 3, 4. Away, away. This brings us to the important announcements portion of our service. All services seem to have announcements folded into them. We had a very exciting announcement earlier, but actually we had a sad announcement too. This is weird. Real life, I guess. Most important announcement left is that there are cupcakes, fresh baked cupcakes, downstairs in Haroma Hall to share at tea time. So that's important. There's also a newcomer circle that occurs at tea time. So if you come downstairs and you have questions and that sort of thing, if you're new to Buddhism or new to our temple, come to newcomer circle and ask away or hear other people's questions. We're always happy to share that way. There's a bunch of announcements printed in the order of service. You can read those. But I have to mention that Moon Rabbit Cafe, our community cafe where people just come and they pay what they can, whatever they can, and meet together in community. We kind of weave the fabric of community together. That is going to occur on April 9th. So you're all invited to dinner, and please bring friends. April 9th from 4 to 6 p.m. We've made the great shift, and we will use this as our waiting room, and we will have the maitre d' seat people in the dining hall downstairs. So we will be back to kind of normal in terms of Moon Rabbit Cafe. It's going to be Hungry for Hungarian, which sounds fun. and I can't resist this. I'm such a fan of Seinfeld. It's going to be chicken or veggie paprikash. 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 Doesn't that sound fun to say? It turns out that in Hungarian, you don't pronounce the syllables in order. So it's paprishka, but it says paprikash very plainly. Okay. Thank you very much. Paprikash.